Hey there. Today we are going to dive into some real talk. Now, if you've been scrolling YouTube or Instagram lately, you've seen it. Everybody and their brother is talking about Airbnb, how much money they're making, how easy it is, and how you've been missing out if you're not doing it also. And I know that my audience is mostly busy working professionals. And I know you guys are thinking this because I talk to you every single day on the phone. You're sitting there thinking, should I be doing that? Am I falling behind? What is up with these Airbnbs? And I need you to hear this. Airbnb might be the best investment you ever make in real estate, or it might be the absolute worst decision and the worst place to start. Okay. The difference, it's not about strategy, it's about you, your time, your life, and what you actually want real estate to do for you. So today we are cutting through the hype. We're talking about active versus passive investing, and I'm going to help you figure out which one makes sense for you right now. Not based on what's trending, but based on your actual life. How does that sound? I'm Melissa Nash, and you are listening to Passively Rich with Rentals, the show for busy professionals who want to build wealth through real estate without it becoming a second job. All right, you guys, let's dive in. This episode is for you if you're a busy working professional. I don't care whether you work in an office or you're running your own business or whatever. You are busy and you have a full time job, or you are a stay at home mom because guess what? That is a full time job as well. You have decent credit. Maybe you've been saving. You've got some capital set aside, definitely not millions, but something real. Your money is just sitting there. Maybe you've maxed out your Roth IRA. Maybe you're investing in stocks. And now you're thinking, okay, I should probably diversify. I should probably get into real estate, but how? And this is probably the process you've gone through. And if you're shaking your head, yes, you are not alone because I literally see this all of the time. So, what's going to happen is generally you start thinking like that, and then you go, okay, I'm going to start researching real estate. And you see all these different ads or articles or wherever it is, YouTube, and you're seeing wholesaling, flipping, managing contractors, managing tenants. And it is constant fires that you're putting out, constant decision making. And if you're sitting there like, well, what exactly am I supposed to do with this? I already have a full time job. I have a full time life. And you start to wonder if maybe real estate isn't for you. But here's the thing, it's not that real estate isn't for you, it is the strategy that everyone is shoving down your throat that might be wrong for you right now. So that's what we are going to untangle today. And we are going to start the conversation with Airbnb. Again, we've been hearing and seeing about it everywhere, right? And by the way, I love Airbnb. I own Airbnbs, or they're called short term rentals. So let me use the correct terminology here. And I've been doing short term rentals for over 7 years. And they have been absolutely incredible in my portfolio. And they've created massive tax benefits. But here's the thing about it, Airbnb is active investing. Even if you have a property manager and you're not managing it yourself, it is still considered active investing. There are pros and cons to that. Okay. And everyone who is telling you otherwise, that it's not active investing, they're either not doing it themselves or they're leaving out a lot of very important details. So here is what Airbnb actually looks like in real life. Number one, you have to research the area. It's not just, is this a good market, but it's also what amenities matter. Location, location, location. What decor matters. Are you pet friendly? Do you have a hot tub? Do you have a fire pit? Do you have a game room? Because those things affect your bookings. They affect your ranking. They affect your outcome. And then you're going to have to furnish the property. So you're buying towels and sheets and dishes, pots and pans, a coffee maker, a toaster, throw pillows, and everything to match this aesthetic. And then you're going to be replacing all of that over and over and over because guess what? Guests break things, they stain things, they take things. And by the way, you are paying all the utilities. So if a guest decides to leave the heat cranked all night in the middle of winter, you're paying for it. Okay. If they take 20 hot showers, you're paying for it. And I know that this sounds silly, but I promise you it is real. So you are managing photos because bad photos means no bookings. You're managing titles because Airbnb is an algorithm, just like Google. You're managing reviews because five-star reviews matter a lot. In fact, I would argue the most. And then you're managing the messaging because how you communicate with the guests affect everything, not only their experience, but your experience as a host. So let's talk about the money part of Airbnbs as well, because Airbnbs are not cheap. Again, I'll say short term rentals, Airbnbs, if you're just tuning in now. I don't mean the brand Airbnb, but that's kind of what people call it. Okay. So vacation rentals are in better areas, right? They're vacation destinations, tourist hotspots, places that people want to go and visit. So that means you're looking at properties that cost 400, 600, 800, $1 million, okay? And then you're putting down 10 to 20% on that, depending on the type of loan that you're looking at. So we're talking 60, 80, 100, $200,000 just to get in the door. That does not include amenities or decor or furniture, okay? Now, we're going to compare that really quickly to a long-term rental, let's say in Indianapolis. $150,000 property where you're putting 20% down. That's $30,000 and you're not furnishing it, okay? There's no furniture. You're not paying the bills, you're not paying the utilities. The tenants do. So the stakes are a lot lower. The barrier to entry is a lot lower. And then with Airbnb, you've got all those amenities that I mentioned, okay? We've got pools, hot tubs, fire pits, and those require maintenance. Pools need cleaning, hot tubs need chemicals, fire pits need propane refills. You guys, this all adds up. And a lot of times these are things that guests think that they get for free that is included, okay? So it's not only that Airbnb is more work, it also requires more capital upfront and way more ongoing investment to keep it competitive. So now you can hire a property manager to handle some of this. And I did do that at first when I first got started. My very first short term rental, I had a property manager that was taking 30%. And that is completely standard industry. Now, if you're looking at a long term rental, it's 10% or less. So a property manager for a short term rental is taking a very, very high percentage. And at the time, I was okay with it because I wanted to be hands off. It was states away from where I lived. But then this is kind of my journey of what happened with that. I started looking at my statements and I was like, okay, this is great. My calendar is full. My property is booked solid, but I was barely breaking even. And this place had an HOA, so there were certain amenities there that I was also paying extra for. And I remember sitting there thinking when I was reviewing this, I was like, dang, that 30% that the property manager takes, if I could keep that money, maybe this could work. Maybe I could actually profit. So I did what I always do because I have ADHD and I hyperfixate on everything and I have to learn everything about everything. I learned. I learned about the Airbnb algorithm. I learned about VRBO. I learned how to optimize titles and photos and automation. And also, I will say when to message guests, how much to message them, and what happens when you over communicate or under communicate. You guys, this was all trial and error. And by the way, if this is something that you want help with, I do have programs for short term rentals. Even though it sounds like I'm talking you out of doing a short term rental, a lot of you, I will talk you out of doing a short term rental because it doesn't make sense for you. I'm very straightforward about it. However, I do have a short term rental program. If you're interested, go to passivelyrichwithrentals.com. There are different options in there that I offer based on your time, your budget, and honestly, how thick your skin is because Airbnb does require thick skin. So, anyways, I digress. Here we go. So, here is the story that really drove this lesson home for me. So, I was doing that one property, was doing a property manager. I decided to take it over and do it myself. I was doing it myself and now I was profiting. Okay. Now I bought the short term rental number two. And again, I started out with a property manager in that area. And there's reasons why sometimes I do recommend that getting started. And then I was like, okay, now I can do this on my own. I took it over on my own. Okay. Now my third short term rental. So again, with a property manager. And so now when this property manager was running it, they're running it on their own page. So when you look up their Airbnb listings or their VRBO listings or their website, they have all the listings under one page. It wasn't my account. Okay. So I was just scrolling through their account and I saw my property and there was a 4-star review on my property that the property manager was running. And I was really upset about it. Okay. Now, the ratings are like 1 to 5, right? And their response when I reached out to them was like, "What do you mean? A 4-star review is great." And that's when I knew we were completely misaligned because property managers are often okay with 4 stars. Owners cannot be, and you shouldn't be. 5-star reviews matter. They affect your ranking, they affect your bookings, they affect your income. And when a guest knows that they're dealing with me, not some big property management company, their behavior changes, the respect changes, and the quality of guest changes. Okay. But that also means I have a lot more involvement, more responsibility, more emotional energy. Again, active investing. Now, I do set up systems so that all of this is running in the background. So I'm really not spending that much time day to day. But like just like today, I get a booking and then somebody has a specific question that isn't in the notes anywhere. So I do have to keep my phone on me and respond. So again, active investing. Now, here's one more thing I'm going to say about Airbnb. Now, you are playing the algorithm game. That is why that 5-star review is so important. Okay. Just like YouTube, Google, Instagram, your listing has to be optimized. Your title matters, your photos matter, your response time matters, your reviews matter. Okay. So, and if you're not checking your phone constantly or tweaking your price or monitoring your competition, then you are leaving money on the table. Okay. So, again, I'm not saying this to scare you out of Airbnb. Like I said in the beginning, I'm so grateful that I did. And I love my properties and I get to use them and I get to enjoy them and they're growing in value. I mean, so many things. But I just want you to know what you're getting into and what you're signing up for. Because there's a huge difference between, hey, I want to invest in real estate and I want to run a hospitality business. Okay. Airbnb or short term rentals is a hospitality business. So, here is what I want you to hear. And if you're listening to this and you're thinking, I want real estate, but I don't want chaos, or I have $50,000 saved, not $150,000, then Airbnb might not be the best first move. And that's not bad, okay? Timing really matters. And for a lot of busy professionals, Airbnb might make way better sense for you later after the foundation is built, after you understand how real estate works, after maybe you've bought a couple of long term rentals, after you have some equity to play with, after you have the time and bandwidth to manage something more active. Okay, that's when Airbnb becomes a strategic addition to your portfolio. Now, what if you're just getting started and you're stretched thin with money and time, and you're trying to figure out how do I even buy my first property? So, again, if we start with the passive long term rentals, that's usually going to be a little bit of a smarter move for that type of a situation. So, let's talk about what that actually looks like. Now, let me tell you what actually gave me financial security, okay? It wasn't wholesaling, it wasn't flipping, and it wasn't really Airbnb. It was the boring, steady, passive long term rentals. Now, this isn't an overnight magical thing, but it happens slowly over time. And here's what these rentals have given me. I don't stress about retirement. I don't worry if I'm going to be okay in the long term. And I don't panic when the stock market dips or when it's going to dip. Okay. Because my rental properties are doing what they're supposed to do, and they're doing it really quietly. Okay. They're going up in value. My tenants are paying down on the loans, and over time, the cash flow is growing. Now, in the beginning, yes, I'm getting some cash flow, but it isn't like, hey, I'm crazy rich with cash flow. The cash flow was the momentum. I was building equity and getting tax advantages. I was leveraging other people's money to buy assets that were appreciating. Now, again, like I said before, there are seasons in investing. There are seasons of my own journey where I wanted to be more active. I wanted to take on rehabs and get my hands dirty and lean in harder. And there were seasons and are seasons in my portfolio growth where I want boring, predictable, passive. Now, if you're busy right now and your time is limited and your risk tolerance is lower, if you just want to get started the right way, then passive long term out-of-state rentals might be the smartest place to live. Now, I threw in out-of-state rentals because most that are listening to this probably live in an expensive area where you might have to be okay with going out of state to make this happen. So again, right now, for somebody, whoever you are listening to this podcast out there right now, you're probably not sitting around with 40 hours a week to dedicate to real estate, but you want real estate to work for you and not become another job. So let's dive into what passive investing might actually look like. Now, if you're listening, I said passive in air quotes, okay? Because it's not like, hey, I'm going to take a nap for 20 years and never look at my property. But day to day, you are not going to be doing anything because you're going to have a property manager in that local market doing all of the work. So, what it means is you're buying a property in a market where the numbers make sense. Again, not just where you live, but where real estate investing actually works for investors. So, markets like Indianapolis, maybe Birmingham, Alabama, St. Louis, Ohio. I mean, these are just a couple of markets that I'm just mentioning, okay? Now, the reason why I like boring markets like this is because the property prices are still pretty reasonable. The rents are strong, population is stable, jobs are diverse. So, again, you are going to have a local property manager. If you're going to do a rehab yourself, go for it. You need a contractor that you can trust. And the idea here is that you're not just guessing. You're not trying to figure out all of this alone midnight on Zillow. Okay. I mean, you can go for it. You can do that, be my guest. But there's ways that you can do it where you're not 100% alone. So I'm going to just throw it out there. This is what I do. This is literally what I spend my days doing is I help people do that. I help you get out of analysis paralysis. I help you stop overthinking. I help you buy properties confidently from 1,000 miles away. Okay. So one of the things that I love is I want all of my clients and you listeners to understand which markets make sense and why. I want you to understand that knowing what a good deal actually looks like. And one thing that I help people with is having the right people in the right place. You're not doing this alone. Once you understand why real estate creates wealth, the decision making gets so much easier. Because when you understand this, and again, this is one of the things that I talk about on this podcast and with my students and some of the programs I have, you're not just chasing cash flow. Now, cash flow is important. But when you understand why real estate creates wealth and how, you're building equity, you're getting tax advantages, you're leveraging appreciation. Okay. Now, this is why wealthy people buy real estate, not because it's sexy and exciting, it's because it works long term. Okay. So, if you want to see what this looks like in real numbers, not theory, I want you to go to passivelyrichwithrentals.com and watch me break down a $135,000 long term rental step by step. Okay. You're going to see the numbers. You're going to get the spreadsheet if you want it. You can just throw your email in there and you'll get a copy of the spreadsheet. And then you'll understand why passive wealth is actually built. Okay. And I'm going to mention this link again at the end because I know that not everybody is listening all the way through to the end. I hope you do, but I will give that out at the end again. Now, I don't want this to sound just theoretical. Okay. So let me tell you about a very special client of mine. His name is Taylor. Now, Taylor came to me years ago. Okay. So this was like 2017, I think. He was 26 years old at the time. And he said to me, Melissa, this is all the money I have. Help me. Whew, that was a heavy responsibility. And I take it seriously, just like I do for anybody that calls me and puts that into my lap. Now, Taylor was scared. And I ended up helping him buy a couple of properties thousands of miles away from where he lived. Now, at the time, he was nervous, he was scared, he didn't quite know how it was all going to look, but he took a leap of trust after running the numbers. Obviously, there was some due diligence there. He didn't go into it completely blind, but he did it. He took action. And I just interviewed him for this podcast. So that episode is going to be in the show notes. I highly recommend that you listen to it after this one, because what was really cool about that episode is we're hearing Taylor talk about where he is now, what his portfolio is worth, and why he got started in the first place. It's a really, really cool story. Anyway, so let me ask you this, and maybe you should ask yourself these questions. Really think about this, okay? What does your future look like to you at 50, 60, 70? Okay. Do you want more freedom, more flexibility, more travel? Maybe you want to live where you want. Maybe you want to help your kids build wealth. Your future doesn't happen accidentally. It happens because at some point you stopped researching and you are taking action. And you guys, I know that sounds so dramatic, but it is true. You can listen to 100 podcasts, you can watch 100 YouTube videos, and you can follow every guru on Instagram. But nothing changes until you actually do something. I see this with my clients all of the time. The ones who win are the ones who make decisions and move forward. Maybe it's imperfectly, maybe it's messily, maybe they're a little bit nervous, but they move forward. And 5 years from now and 10 years from now, they're the ones who have a portfolio. They're the ones with options. They are the ones who are not stressed about the future because they started today. So, again, here's what I want you guys to do today. I want you to take a little bit of action. This isn't a big action, this is a tiny action. I want you to go to passivelyrichwithrentals.com and I want you guys to watch me break down a real long-term rental firsthand. Now this is a $135,000 property and I'm going to show you how the numbers work, where the wealth comes from, where the profit centers are, and by the way, you can get a copy of the spreadsheet if you want to as well, okay? So again, I want you guys to go and at least watch that video and understand where these profit centers of real estate are because it's pretty awesome. So this episode, again, I hope you guys understand what I'm trying to get across. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. It's more about helping you choose the right path at the right time for your life. Now, Airbnb might be amazing for you. It may be not, but I'm here to help you figure it out. So again, go to the show notes, definitely listen to that interview with Taylor, and I hope that story inspires you. Thanks for listening. See you on the next one.